If you're a brand or an Amazon agency, you're probably looking to have more consistent results. And it could be you don't have the right systems and processes in place to get you those results. And one of the best ways you can do that is by having standard operating procedures. Now, a lot of people think that having standard operating procedures might take away their freedom, but it'll actually give you more freedom and give you more time back and set you up to have even better, more consistent results. So if that sounds of interest to you, we're going to explain to you in this video how you can create your own SOPs, how we create our SOPs here at My Amazon Guy, and give you some tips on how you can do that better to even save more time on creating those SOPs. All right, so let's talk a little bit about why having SOPs even matters. So, first of all, it's going to give you more consistency. Like I said earlier, it's going to save you time. When you think of SOPs, one of the big things that people think about are two things: airlines and McDonald's. I would imagine you probably don't want to get on an airplane if the pilot isn't using some sort of SOP or checklist to make sure that, the engine's running correctly. You might be saying to yourself, well, but an airplane is a life or death situation. Do I need that for other things? Well, think about a situation where maybe it's not quite so life and death. When you go to McDonald's, you have a consistent experience. Now, they maybe don't necessarily have the best cheeseburgers, but they have very consistent ones. And the reason for that is, as someone who used to work at McDonald's when I was in high school, I can tell you they have all the processes documented. Everything down to a T is in some sort of SOP. Even when I was, 15, 16 years old, they were going over it with me. Basically, having the right systems and processes is going to make everything smoother for you, whether you're flying an airplane, you're running a restaurant, or you are an agency or a brand owner on Amazon. Now, a couple things to think about when you are putting your SOPs together is what makes a great SOP. So it's a couple things. First of all, you want to make sure you have a clear goal or an outcome, like what is it you're trying to achieve in this? And also you want to make sure that you document things like the date that you prepared this, making sure that everything is clear and step by step. And I'm actually going to show you some examples here. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And so this is our SOP library where we document our processes. We have many of them here at My Amazon Guy. So in fact, if you want to check out our SOP library, we actually have it available for sale, which I'll have a link to down below in the description. But if I go over here to documentation, that screen loads. We've got basically step-by-step things that we've documented. So for example, here's our Amazon advertising SOP. This one is showing you quite a few different things. So we've actually got a few Amazon advertising SOPs. So let's look at this one for negation. So it talks about Amazon negation. Who's this for? What are we trying to achieve? The timing of when you should do this, considerations, step by step, like I was mentioning, click here, go there. So here's how you actually download the reports. No ambiguity. You could hand this to someone on your team who's just getting started and say, hey, please pull this report. And you could tell them, like, maybe you pull this report every Friday or whatever the case is, but you come up with some sort of cadence. And then you could always add to that for your own processes, like where you want it saved. But then they're giving them basically, here's where you would go to make the negation. Here's things you would think about when you're deciding which keywords to negate or not. So these are all things that we put into our processes. And you can see we've got more information on how we negate, and then, go into even having frequently asked questions. So you might be saying to yourself, but how do I decide what I'm going to add into my SOPs? Well, let me go over that here with you. So as you're putting together your SOPs, you want to do a few things. Now, first off, you got to decide, what do I want to document? What is that task? This should be something that's very repetitive or something that's high value. So meaning something that, like, we got to make sure we get this right. We got to make sure that, the engines don't fall off the airplane type of thing? Or is this something that you're doing over and over and over and over again, pulling the same reports, maybe, 2-3 times a week? Or if you're an agency, maybe there's certain processes you have with reports, you're pulling it 2-3 times a week per client. So you multiply that times the number of clients you have, and you realize your organization is doing a lot. And if every time some new person comes in and you have to explain to them, hey, let me show you how to do this, if you have it documented in your SOP, it's going to make your life a lot simpler. So what is going to help you? Because if you think about it, here at My Amazon Guy, we have hundreds of SOPs. We have 560 of our Amazon SOPs documented in that library that I was showing you. Whereas the reality is, if you're documenting your processes, you can document one at a time. Maybe over the course of an afternoon, you document several, but you're only going to be typing up or screenshotting or recording yourself doing one at a time. So prioritize the ones you want to start with first. Then start actually documenting the process. It could be a couple different ways you could do this. Maybe you like to type things out. Type it out. What you could do is you could also record yourself doing that. So you record yourself using Loom or some other, there's tons of software out these days where you can use it to record your screen. And in that, you're recording your screen step by step, click here, go there. And then you could take the transcript of that and you could put that into ChatGPT or your favorite AI. And then from there, you could say, okay, I'm going to take this in. I'm going to make this something really special. So now you've got this special document, something that shows this is how we do things at our company. What you could do to make sure that everything's documented well is give it to someone else in your team. Now, if you just recorded the video, you could give that video to someone on your team, have them follow along in the process, and then have them take screenshots and document, this is how they did it. Or if you documented it into a step-by-step guide, that it's written, then from there, you could hand that off to someone else, have them try to do the process. And then they can give you feedback. Hey, I got a little confused here. And then you can make things a little bit clearer. So oftentimes we get in our own head of, what I'm saying makes so much sense to me, but of course, everyone else is going to know. Well, maybe they don't. So it's your job to make sure that everyone else understands what it is you're asking them to do. And then from there, you want to make sure you house this and organize it in a way that's going to be easy to find. So going back to sharing my screen, you can see here in our SOP library, we have it broken down by type of SOP, and then we have a naming convention. So for example, for catalog, we've got actually subfolders, but we've got for example, catalog SOP. So we put the type of SOP, and then SOP. So like catalog SOP, advertising SOP, something like that. And then we show how to do it step by step. So from there, a couple things you also want to do is you want to make sure that it's something that's easy to access and clear for other people to find. Ideally, you have some sort of search feature. So that could even just be in Google Docs, where you have Google Docs for all of your SOPs and people are in a folder and they're just searching within the folder for, whatever the case is. Ours does have a search function here where you could look for certain topics. So you want to just make sure that it's user-friendly. It's something that people use. Now, also, you want to go back to folks and be able to say, if someone has questions, well, let's review the SOP. Always point people back to the SOP. That way you get more usage out of it. And then another tip we also have is making sure that you have some sort of template. So for example, a lot of ours follow a certain format. So have a format and make sure that it's something that you can repeat. Now, you don't have to have the perfect format in the beginning. You can always improve upon it, but at least have something where it's easy for other people to follow along. And even if you're just a solopreneur, start documenting your processes because one, it'll help you in case you're like, how do I do that again? And then two, when you bring someone on your team, you'll be able to show them, here's the documentation, whether the documentation is, fancy screenshots and step-by-step, or it's recorded in a Loom video or something like that. So make sure to check in to make sure that you have everything step by step. And then make sure you just have a culture of everyone is, using those SOPs, encourage them to use it. And then also what we highly recommend you do is that you have some sort of cadence for going back in and making sure that your SOPs are updated and still stay updated. So we have an entire team here at My Amazon Guy who their whole job is once a quarter to go into the SOPs and take a look at them. Now, maybe you don't have a team that you could have to be your training team to go in and take a look at the SOPs once a quarter, but either you go in and take a look at them or you assign someone on your team and say, okay, I want you to go through all these processes and just double check them. Even if they look at it every day, just say, please take a special look at it to make sure, is it still the same process? Did Amazon change, where something is located on a report or what screen it is? Sometimes things move, from one menu to another menu. That happens. So you want to make sure that when someone else comes in on your team, that they're able to pick up on that. If you want to check out our SOP library, you can always check out our SOP library, which we'll have a link to down below. We hope this video has been helpful for you, and we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments of what SOPs are you going to document next to make your life simpler, save you time, and get more consistent results. My name is Kevin Sanderson from My Amazon Guy, and thank you for watching.